Yesterday we looked at the Toronto Raptors post-draft cap situation entering this offseason, as well as some scenarios in which Kyle Lowry re-signs with the Raptors, Plan A. There's an obvious flip side in play here, one that is hard to contemplate but also realistic. Brace yourselves, here come the more pessimistic outcomes. What happens if Lowry leaves the Raptors? First up, the sign and trade options, and again we offer the plan a refresher here. Plan B: when the Raptors turned down trades for Lowry at the deadline, part of it was likely that the offers just weren't that good, so they wouldn't really regret missing out on them. But part of it was also that there was a chance they would be able to negotiate a sign and trade to send Lowry to his team of choice in the summer. Well, here we are. Teams are clearing cap space left and right for Lowry. The Mavericks and Pelicans both have paths to over $30 million in room, but that still leaves other teams who would be interested in him without cap room. If a team wants to sign a free agent and doesn't have the cap room to do so, they have to use an exception. They are called exceptions because they are literally just exceptions to the rule that you have to stay under the cap. The NBA is called a soft cap league because there are so many exceptions that very few teams actually stay under the cap and many teams go way over it, to the point that the NBA instituted the aforementioned luxury tax to try to rein in overspending. Some of these exceptions are standalone things that can be used to sign a free agent, the various versions of the mid-level exception, for example. But any function that allows a team to do anything and end up adding salary over the cap is technically an exception. For example, the traded player exception. This exception also takes a bunch of forms, but essentially it says that if a team finishes a trade over the cap, that trade has to meet certain requirements. The key one being that they have to match the salary they send out with the salary they take in within a certain margin. The rule is complicated enough that the margin changes depending on the size of the trade, but for the purpose of the Lowry discussion, since his salary will be so high, the rule is quite simple. A team can only take back at most 125%, plus $100,000, of the salary they send out in the trade. There is no minimum amount of salary that needs to come back, but both teams need to be allowed to make the trade, so usually the salary is fairly closely matched. A key factor in off-season trades is the existence of the sign and trade. A team with a player's rights can sign and instantly trade that player to another team, so long as the player agrees. The player is essentially signing with the other team through the traded player exception, with his previous team is helping out. Now, since that previous team is helping out, they usually expect something in return.